Okay, today we are playing a game on Numbani. The average SR of this game was 2,844, and we will be playing Moira the entire way through. And our current team composition is D.Va, Orisa, Genji, McCree, Lucio, and Moira. So things to be sad about, we do not have a Mercy, which is very sad because Mercy is still really strong, as it turns out. The Overwatch League started, and yeah, it's like all Mercy all the time. And it was really fun to watch the Junkertown and the Horizon Lunar Colony games because some really exciting games of Bastion and Mercy dominating the game. And quite a lot of Widow, actually, as it turns out, because Mercy's really strong. So Widow can kill Mercy, as it turns out. And it's sort of difficult, like, the Widowmaker on the defending team always has the advantage in the Widow versus Widow matchup, if you think about it, because the Widow on defense is probably playing around a corner, and then Mercy just comes around the corner and reses the Widow from out of line of sight, and then Widow gets to try again. So, this is a completely different tangent that we're getting on here, but we're sad we don't have a Mercy, is basically it. And you know, having an Orisa for the first checkpoint on Numbani, attacking anyway, is not the greatest thing in the world, but it's also not the end of the world. So anyway, let's start the game. Let's talk about Moira, because Moira's pretty sick. I love Moira, she's my favorite hero. So, we're going to throw the ball up through the doorway and get some ult charge off of that. Damage orb is really good. We are using a lot more of our healing than we need to, if YouTube would be so kind. Oh, good heavens, the very first time I try to go backwards, and it's like, nope, can't do that, can't do that. There we go, finally, Jesus Christ. Okay, so we, throw the damage orb out, that was cool, we want to get all the charges as quickly as possible, then we just, like, spray. I love the internet. So we just kind of spray left-click all over them for a while, even though not many people had actually taken that much damage, so just the health regen in and of itself would have been fine, or the healing over time effect would have been fine, rather than holding down left-click over people, because we're trying to be as efficient as possible with our resource, because it takes a long time to regenerate. Also, the other healer is Lucio, so we're gonna generally probably be pretty low resource-wise this game, so we don't really want to waste a bunch of resources, which is the thing that stands out the most in, like, the opening part of the game, where we basically hold down left-click over people when we don't really need to, and we could just let the regen take care of it. But as we can see, we have sort of just rolled over them on the first checkpoint. They helped greatly by the fact that their Reaper just tried to walk down the staircase at us right at the start of the push, so he just died for no reason at all. Or we fade right into the enemy team, which is not really recommended. God, YouTube works fantastically, doesn't it? Isn't it incredible? So D.Va's trying very hard to lose her mech, and we try very hard to keep her in her mech, but it doesn't work out, unfortunately. And, you know, again, we're holding down left-click over people. Once our mech breaks, like, there's no point holding down left-click over it anymore at that point. We just end up wasting a bunch of resources again, which is not good because we are the main healer. Genji's trying to use Dragon Blade, but we're just going to skate away from him. Sound barrier's on us as well, so he's definitely not going to kill us before we kill him with Coalescence. And he's alive again, but he doesn't have Dragon Blade, so he's not super scary, and we're playing Moira, so we're really good at killing Genji. Feels so bad to play Genji against Moira, because Moira just kind of has her way with him, basically. So a large portion of our team are dead right now. The enemy team are sort of slowly trying to push into us, but it's not really going super well for them. They all pop out right in front of our face, and again, you know, the resources, left-click, like we could just be letting the health regen take care of most of the damage that we've had. Like, right there, we're just holding down left-click on people who have not actually taken any damage yet. They're all actually, it's still full of HP, so we're just really low on our resource right now, even though not that many people were actually wounded. General thing with Moira is that, if people are not actually hurt, like, unless they're actively engaged in a fight and taking damage, you can usually just let the regen take care of it. Like, you can just... This is what I do all the time. Like, things are relatively neutral with the team, I just, like, spray over them for a second, and then, like, for the next 3 seconds, they're regenerating HP. Then at the end of the 3 seconds, just, like, really quickly, half a second over all of them. And then that just sort of heals up all of the poke, and then you just generate a lot of ult charge off of just sort of continuously healing them, because the regen's ticking on them. We do a lot of holding down over them, which we want to avoid doing, because Moira's resource is quite limited. It's not super limited, but seeing as the other healer on our team is Lucio, we're going to find it to be quite limited at times. And as we can see, Lucio is up there on a journey. Did actually manage to kill someone, I think, up there, which is pretty incredible, honestly, that he got away with it. Again, we're holding left click down over the D.Va, who is not actually that hurt. But we do get to farm quite a bit of it off of the Roadhog. What's this Mercy up to? What's the plan over here, do you reckon? It doesn't go super well for her. She reses the Winston, but she ain't getting out with her life. And now, her and Winston are just staggered. Here's Reaper. He's trying his hardest. It's not going to work. Now he's just going to be in here and get bullied to death. Could have started healing the D.Va there. Just, like, throw the damage orb into the room and start healing the D.Va, because we don't really want her to lose her mech, and Reaper can take D.Va out of her mech quite quickly, seeing as, you know, Reaper kind of kills tanks. It's sort of his thing. Didn't need to use the healing orb on this dude. The healing orb in general is quite bad, because it's quite difficult to get full value out of the healing orb, because it does 300 healing, which is a lot of healing, yeah, but it almost never actually does the full 300 healing unless your team is in an incredibly confined location, and it can actually just sort of bounce around the room a few times. Or a bunch of your people on your team are hurt and, like, really tightly huddled together. Usually, just holding left-click over someone is plenty, and you just want to be chucking damage orbs at people to build up your ult, and just sort of, well, to build up your ult, and, you know, it's doing a bunch of damage to them, it applies pressure, it makes them play around it, it makes it easier to pick people off. There's a bunch of reasons just chucking the damage orb out on cooldown is, better. Don't need to use the healing orb here either, because nobody's actually that hurt on our team still, and that's just going to bounce off and not do its full value. It's really hard to get the full value out of the healing orb, but it's really easy to get the full value out of the damage orb, because 200 damage is not that hard to do to the enemy team. 300 healing to your own team is surprisingly difficult to do. Especially when you consider that if you're throwing the healing orb out, your team probably needs healing, so you're probably holding left-click over them as well, which just makes it even less likely the healing orb is actually going to do its full healing. And we've got Coalescence as well right now, which we're probably going to use in the near future, because we do, of course, want to use Coalescence as quickly as possible. We sort of layer it with Sound Barrier, which is awkward, but not the end of the world. It's not as sad as when Sound Barrier and Transcendence get layered over each other, because that's just the actual saddest thing that can happen. Coalescence at least has an aggressive component to it, so it's not the end of the world if Sound Barrier gets used at the same time. Just also makes it harder for you to die in Coalescence, because Moira is surprisingly easy to kill while using Coalescence. It's one of those ultimates that makes you feel like you're immortal and can't be touched, but you're actually, like, quite easy to kill, because you suddenly can't actually do anything really funky to try and avoid taking down. You can't use Fade or anything. So you've just sort of got the health regen and the speed boost, but Moira's actually surprisingly easy to kill in Coalescence. In Transcendence, no. Moira's quite difficult to kill in Transcendence. I am upset that Widowmaker has sort of been more popular, because of course she is, because she's been turning up in some pro games, which means the trickle-down effect where we will see more Widowmakers in general. I find playing Moira against Widowmaker to be very tedious, because there's, like, very little you can do to actually try and deal with Widowmaker, other than, like, throw your damage orb at her, but it's going to take 1 billion years to get to her, so she's just going to leave. And when you start using Coalescence, you just paint a giant target on your head for Widow to shoot at, and it's just, it's very tedious. More Genji and Pharah, please, because they are actually extremely easy to kill as Moira. Now, the Pharah not so much if the Pharah isn't stupid, but So we end up getting really low. The best time to use the healing orb is really when you need healing, because you can just sort of hang out with it and follow it around. And Reaper does this right next to us, which is of course really spooky, but we've got Fade, so we can leave. We just barely survive. And we've got the payload to heal us. However, we are, like, hanging out really close to the enemy. Like, we're still moving into the enemy team. I know we're trying to heal Genji. Here's the thing, though. You're more important than Genji as one of the supports, so I wouldn't be trying to heal that dude. I'd, like, maybe try and get the regen ticking on him and then just fade away, because I don't want to get killed, because we are really low HP and still fighting near them. And Moira's right-click's got a real long range on it. We don't actually need to go closer to these people, because we're getting closer to, D.Va, but D.Va wants us to be closer to her because she has shotguns, whereas we are quite long range, and we don't really get anything from being closer to her. So, what I would have chucked the healing orb against the wall, and then just sort of moved back away from D.Va and let the regen take care of it, rather than moving towards the D.Va, because that's actually just taking us closer to D.Va's area, and we don't really gain anything from it. We can get the regen off of the payload, I suppose, but man. So we've ended up, we can heal Genji when that happens right there, because we are out of resource right now, which is, of course, terrible. If you find yourself to be low on resource quite frequently, it's probably not, you're probably not actively trying to right-click people frequently enough, or holding left-click over people too frequently. Get the Tracer. Feels good, man. Man, that's the best thing about playing Moira, is like the flankers try to get you, and you just fight the flankers, and they're like, oh shit, this is really hard. Fuck, Moira doesn't just like go down like Mercy or Zenyatta does. So in general, the thing that stands out the most out of the first round at least is inefficiency, just like holding left click over people who, oh, this is, get ready.
Did our Arista just throw the thing off? No! No!
What? No! What the fuck? What the fuck?
It's like, I imagine that McCree, it looked like what happened was McCree was like, yeah, I'll push her off the edge. Oh no, that edge is death. Oh no, and then he felt like he had to kill himself in penance as well, so we've lost 2 people on our team right at the start of the round, which is terrible. We're gonna win this fight, though, which is the worst part. Like, that's gonna go fully unpunished, because watch what happens right here. Roadhog just walks forward, gets killed. Genji's in there, manages to kill people, and then we just walk in holding left click. And look at that! Even though those 2 people did something really stupid, it will go completely unpunished because of that. So, yeah, just like holding left-click over people when we could try and let the regen take care of it is, the thing that stood out the most in, like, the first round. It got, like, better as the game goes on, I noticed, but, first round, mostly inefficiency with resources. It was a pretty good Moira game, overall. We do, like, probably use the healing orb too much as well. Don't really want to use the healing orb that much. Do I still have it? Yeah, we do. So, you know, figure A, exhibit 1. Damage orb is significantly better than the healing orb. Only reason to use the healing orb, really, is, you're in a duel with somebody. Because if you're trying to duel, if a Genji comes out and he tries to kill you and you just, like, bounce the healing orb around, don't chuck it at the ground, because then it goes up into the sky, and then it's not going to heal you. And a player's muscle memory will really fuck them over on that one. But if you just, like, bounce the healing orb around you in a duel, and you're draining off the person, you're healing over 100 health per second off with the orb and the drain combined, so suddenly it becomes really hard for the person diving on you to kill you. Because that's a lot of healing per second. That's a third of Transcendence. The other reasons to use, the healing orb are like, your team are all really low and really clustered together, because then you just chuck it through the team and it will heal, like, a lot of people. Because it's 75 health per second, so, you know, that's a lot, especially if you're left-clicking over people. So it can make, it difficult to kill your team, but they have to all, like, be clustered together, and they have to all be low to really justify it, in which case you probably just decided to use Coalescence anyway, seeing as that's sort of what the ultimate's for. Also, if somebody's really far away, you can chuck it to them because the orb will get there faster than you will. So that might save the person. Or if you can't realistically get to the person because it's too dangerous, you can chuck the healing orb at them. But that's kind of it. Like, the healing orb is not very good. It's very, very selectively useful. The best use for it is just healing yourself, honestly. So, we did a little, we were, I assume, trying to dodge Roadhog's hook, and then wouldn't jump down onto the payload, onto the payload, right after using Fade right there, just because Roadhog and Winston are still down here. I assume we used the Fade to try and dodge his hook, but then we just ended up not mattering, but then we jumped down onto the low ground. We're still a really long-range hero, as, Moira, we could have stayed on the high ground at least until Fade was back up, and then come down and we'd have been safer. But at the same time, Fade's cooldown is really low, so it's not the, end of the world. Here we slowly move our way into Roadhog, which we want to avoid doing, because Roadhog would love for us to be right next to him. That makes it much easier for, Roadhog to kill us. So here's the other thing, though, the way we use our orb. Because we chuck it at Roadhog right here. But we have seen in the background that Soldier is in that room over there. Like, we've seen him right there. So, chucking the orb at Roadhog is not really going to do that much, because we're in a really open space out here, so it's probably just going to float away from him. And also just, like, it's not the end of the world to Roadhog. Whereas if we chuck the orb into the room with Soldier, that might kill Soldier. Or it'll at least make Soldier move into a worse position for him. Or maybe make him retreat to pick up a health kit. Then we also end up fading away from the Roadhog into the Soldier. Again, we know Soldier is in the little room, so rather than fading in that direction, we could fade further back down the street away from Roadhog, or we could fade into the closet, you know, the Torbjorn closet, or further down the street, like towards the attacker's spawn, but that's, like, kind of scary because they might reinforce behind us. Because we know Soldier's there, we don't want to fade over to that doorway, because Soldier's over there. And we also slowly trended into Roadhog, which is bad, because Roadhog would very much like for us to be right next to him, because he's a shotgun hero. So, we've lost the first checkpoint. You know, it's not the end of the world. We got it all the way to the end with nearly 3 minutes to spare, so certainly not the end of the world for us. So the way we chuck our orb here, we chuck it, like, at the Lucio directly, but the Lucio is, like, never gonna hang around over here. He's always gonna run back to his team, so rather than chucking it, like, directly at the Lucio from there, it would be better to, chuck it, like, up this street, you know, at this wall, ideally, because then it'll chase the Lucio, because he's never gonna stay down here. He's always gonna run back to his team. So if we just chuck it over there so it chases him, and then if it doesn't all wear out on Lucio, it bounces over here onto the enemy team, and then that's more efficient like that. A lot of playing Moira is about getting, all of the small efficiencies out, because like, Moira puts out really big numbers, but, not immediately. Like, it's a sort of gradual build-up. Again, holding left-click over people when nobody's really hurt, and if they were hurt just like a little bit, the regen can take care of it. We really want to kill the Farah right there, but unfortunately she manages to kill the Orisa, but then we also kill her, and, like, our whole team is dead, so sucks to be them. Again, just sort of spraying everywhere when we don't really need to, like, it's very much the recurring theme. I do know this was, this was, like, the third game you had played as Moira, so this was, like, a week ago, so at this point you've probably gotten a lot better by this point, but, yeah, the efficiency on the left click is very much the thing so far. So here we just use Coalescence immediately, which seems to be just the response to Mercy using Valkyrie. There's not really much point to use Coalescence here, because there isn't really anything actually going on, because the enemy team is still largely respawning and coming back, and then we just kind of end up using Coalescence for not very much. So, I think it was, there goes Diva. I think it was prompted by Valkyrie, but there wasn't really that much reason to use it. Coalescence is pretty good against Valkyrie, because I find it quite easy actually to kill Mercy with Coalescence out of Valkyrie. Granted, I we are on the console today, by the way. Consider yourself forewarned at about 18 minutes into this video. I do find it quite easy to kill Mercy with Coalescence, but I do play on the PC, so that might make it easier for me relative to the console, because, like, Coalescence is a pretty fat beam, right? And it's not actually that hard to track Mercy with it. I don't know how much harder it would be on the console, but I find Coalescence is pretty good at killing Mercy, because it's pretty easy to hit her with it, which is largely what you're looking for when you're trying to kill Mercy out of Valkyrie. You know, you're looking for something that requires as little direct skill as possible. So, Orissa's getting murdered over there because Reaper's running up on her. She shouldn't have even been that far up. We could have tried to heal her, but we were really low on resources, and she was probably dead anyway, so... It's the street phase on Numbani. It's not like we expect to hold it for an extended period of time anyway. Oh, Genji died right there. They do also have a Bastion now, which is not the end of the world to us as Moira, because we can chuck orbs at him, and that'll just generally annoy the shit out of him. But it is kind of scary, because Bastion can, of course, still kill you quite quickly. So we've almost got Coalescence again, because Coalescence is that way as an ultimate, where you build it really quickly. And we're chucking out the damage orbs quite frequently, which is, you know, a big deal about Moira. Genji's running away from us the whole time. Try not to do this, where, like, you run after somebody, like, oh, come closer to... I do wish that it was, like, a little bit easier to tell the exact range on Moira's healing beam, because I still, like, despite playing almost nothing but Moira since she's come out, I still have trouble telling if I'm hitting somebody with it or not. But, try not to run after them like, yo, come here, just, like, holding it down the whole time, because, like, you do still have the resource going. Just, like, stop until you think you're in range again, because that's how you, like, drain yourself right there. Because now we're really low on resources right before a team fight starts. But we do also have Coalescence, so even if the team fight starts suddenly, we at least have that. But, yeah, that's not efficient to run after them like that. So I tried really hard to heal the Orisa through this. Unfortunately, Moira does a fucking lot of healing, so Orisa actually manages to get herself out of it. That's also a situation where you might consider using the healing orb, because it'll bounce around on the Orisa a lot, and then Orisa is healing 75 per second from the orb, and how much healing does Moira do per second? She does, like, a lot of healing per second, because I'm pretty sure the regen is still ticking while you're healing them as well, so it's like... I think it's like 80 per second or something like that. The healing orb plus you left-clicking them is a fucking lot of healing, though I don't know the exact number, so... Seeing as she's gonna get run down by Reaper, it's not unimaginable he does enough damage to kill Orisa, so the healing orb might be worth using in that situation as well. But then you could also argue that the damage orb plus Orisa could probably kill Reaper before Reaper could kill Orisa as well with us healing her, so depends how you look at it, I suppose. So we're really low on resources right now, so we want to try and regenerate that as quickly as possible. Oh no, Bastion's doing that. That's a really brave time to use Coalescence, because Bastion is, like, as soon as you use Coalescence, it's an ultimate that paints a target on your head, and we just saw Bastion turn into a tank over there. At the very least, I would fade back away from the Bastion a little bit more, just in case, because Coalescence does have a 30-meter range, which is fucking insane. So you can, like, fade away from danger and then start using it, and it doesn't take that much longer to start up, and you're just, like, way safer, because you do have to be careful with Coalescence, because I do catch myself going forward with it, like, yeah, let's go make the big ultimate play, and I'm like, oh shit, I was mortal the entire time, oh no. So, chuck the damage orb in. Most of our team are actually not that damaged. That would be, if the team was a little bit more damaged, that would be a decent time to use the healing orb, because it would, it's a relatively confined space, and it would get a lot of healing in. We used the healing orb right there. Fair enough, you know. I don't think it was quite bad enough to really justify it. I would have still used the damage orb. Because also, as well, just, like, think about it this way. If you throw the damage orb out, and then you're healing people, like, your left-click healing is still a fucking lot of healing, right? And it's still AoE. So, usually you can, like, heal people with your left click perfectly fine, assuming you have the resources for it, of course, because, you know, sometimes you might be, like, mostly out when a team fight's happening, and you're like, I'll throw the healing orb as well. But, like, usually just left-clicking people is enough, because Moira does just do a fucking lot of healing. And then you throw the damage orb out at the same time, and the damage orb is ticking on people at the same time, and you're healing people over here, and you just build... And that's how you build up, like, all of your ultimate in the same team fight. Like, it's not unimaginable. This happens quite frequently, where you use Coalescence right at the start of a team fight, then you come out of the other end of the team fight with, like, 70% ult charge. Like, it's insane how fast Moira charges her ultimate. So we got a lot of low people right now. We do use the healing orb. I would just use the resource because, like, we fade forward trying to get the orb to heal us. I would just left-click people still, because, like, enemy team's resetting, so you don't really need to hold the left-click over them the entire time to heal them back up to full. You can just kind of, like, spritz them every now and let the regen heal them back up while the enemy team is still resetting, since we got, like, plenty of time to, like, just sort of heal people with the regen while the enemy team are resetting. And then we can chuck the damage orb out at their spawn and, you know, do the usual thing. Looks like a fight's happening up there, so we chuck the healing orb at them. Because Lucio is also up there, and neither of them are in critical HP, I would chuck the damage orb up there. Because Junkrat, Lucio, and the damage orb bouncing around in that room should be enough to kill most people. And since Lucio is up there, the healing orb probably ends up being overkill, seeing as they weren't in critical health. A little bit awkward where we're, like, trying to follow the D.Va around. Just, like, another small efficiency thing. Rather than rotating around to try and find the D.Va, it would be better to just back up, because then you get behind the D.Va who has gone behind you, and then you're still, like, using all of Coalescence, like, because you want to be damaging people and healing people at the same time if possible. And just, like, time you spend spinning around looking for one person is just sort of not a very efficient use of Coalescence, so it'd be better to just sort of skate behind her and then just kind of try and keep it pointed at the team fight the entire time, and then just sort of move to get D.Va into view rather than rotating your view to look at D.Va. Because then you're just getting slightly more out of Coalescence. Again, Moira is one of the, you know, Moira puts up really big numbers, but it's mostly about getting, like, a lot of efficiencies out of over a long period of time. Reaper spins right next to us, that's kind of spooky. There's a health kit in here, so unfortunately it's been taken right now, so we can't actually just heal up immediately. Again, we just, like, chuck the healing orb at this person. It's all, like, it's definitely not worth using for one person in that kind of situation, because, like, you're gonna get almost none of the real full value out of the healing orb. It's gonna, like, tick on them twice and then be out of range. Like, it's better to just hold left-click over them. Left-click is still a lot of healing. The healing orb plus you left-clicking tends to be overkill, unless, like, something real funky's happening in the team fight that's causing a lot of people to take a lot of damage. Got hooked by Roadhog, it's okay. Fade has, like, Fade is, like, the best cooldown in the game for getting away from a hook, honestly. You just hold that button down and you skate away. Oh, this is just, like, a thing with Moira's orbs as well. I don't know if you know how it works like this, because this still fucks me up. Like, I wish I could turn this off. If you're holding down one of Moira's beams, and then you push the orb button, it just immediately throws out the orb of whatever beam you were holding down. So you're holding down the damage orb, just push the button, it immediately throws out the damage orb, and vice versa. I kind of wish it wasn't that way, because there have been plenty of times where I've been healing somebody, wanted to throw a damage orb out, accidentally have ended up throwing a healing orb out. Or vice versa, I've been like, oh, I really need the healing orb right now, and then I've been holding down right click, and then I've accidentally thrown out the damage orb, and then I've been like, well, I guess I'll die now. So, kind of wish it wasn't like that. I wish I could turn that off, because it still fucks me up, honestly. Maybe I can. I haven't really looked, to be fair, at the same time either, but I don't like that it works that way. Because it, honestly, like, it's almost never been beneficial to me. So we've chucked our orb at the ground when we could have just had it bouncing around in the room with us. We did say something in the chat about fucking that up, basically, so I'm not going to belabor it. So we've almost got Coalescence built up. Enemy team, haven't got long left. We got 10 seconds left. Two of them just died. Both of their DPS just died. Using Coalescence right next to a Roadhog is really scary, because unless you know his hook is on cooldown, because that exact thing can end up happening to you. So Be careful of starting up Coalescence next to somebody who has hard CC, like Roadhog and McCree. But we end up winning the round, not surprising, seeing as they didn't have very long left, and then they lost their 2 DPS right at the start, which is not really ideal. So we got play of the game. It was Gongo.
Dude, you should see my stats.
What did Gongo do? Oh, it's gonna be this part right here. Oh, this is where Gongo gets in. He's just like, oh yeah, spinning around like, wait, what? It's like he didn't know. He's like, what? They died? Holy shit! So, 26 sound barriers provided out of 6 sound barrier. Okay, is that 6 people every single time? No, that's not how math works. No, that's like a lot though. Like that hit almost everyone every time. That's like pretty good actually. So the thing that stands out the most in this video is just inefficient use of resources, holding left click over people when you don't need to hold left click over people. Could just let the regen take care of it, and then like chasing after the Genji, like just come back, just come a little bit closer, and just like spraying into the void the entire time. That's like the hardest thing to learn about Moira is the resource management. I almost never look at the gauge, to be fair. Like I never look at it. Usually I'm just like, okay, I spent like 2-3 seconds healing somebody, so now I'm gonna spend like 2-3 seconds trying to do damage instead, to refill the gauge that I just used. I almost never look at the gauge. I just like, alright, I've spent a couple of seconds healing, so now I'm gonna spend a couple of seconds doing damage, you know, that kind of thing. Man, I wish the healing orb did, restore, not the healing orb, the damage orb. I wish the damage orb restored the resource, but at the same time, that would be mad overpowered. At that point, Moira would not actually have resource management, you would just have a constantly full gauge. Maybe like half of what the normal refill is off of like doing damage. That'd still probably be too much, because you just throw the damage orb out there so frequently, like there'd be no resource management. Whatever. So that was the thing that stood out the most in this game, so thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, I'm more than happy to answer, and I hope you found the video helpful.